Hello and welcome back to the Success Catalyst podcast. This is Nina Roberts, and today I am very excited to welcome Tara Pilling, a renowned mindset consultant, best-selling author, and healer. Tara's transformative journey began in 1995 following a personal tragedy at the age of 21. Seeking holistic healing beyond conventional methods, she immersed herself in yoga, meditation, and alternative therapies, leading to profound personal growth. Tara's extensive certifications and experience span modalities like body talk, EFT, kinesiology, access consciousness, Ayurveda, meditation, and yoga. She has been mentored by industry giants such as Tony Robbins and Sharma, and discovered her true potential through the Bob Proctor legacy. Residing in beautiful British Columbia, Canada, with her family, Tara is dedicated to helping others unlock their full potential. Her philosophy is get your mind right, align with universal laws, and the world will follow your lead. It's simple yet profound. So join me today as Tara shares her insights on shaping reality and leading with love. Welcome to the show, Tara.
Thank you, Nina. I'm just super excited to be here with you.
I'm very happy to have you here, and I have lots of questions for you today. I have the feeling that this episode is going to be full of golden nuggets, so let's begin. Tara, what inspired you to embark on your transformative journey into holistic healing after the family tragedy that you experienced at 21?
Yeah, so like most people who are under a lot of stress or experience any form of trauma, I got sick. And at the time, so my background is physical therapy and occupational therapy. And at the time, I was actually working at the hospital. And when I got sick, and I wasn't doing very well, I was just kind of surviving and dealing with, of course, the passing of my mom, and then, of course, my siblings. I mean, they were all going through their stuff as well, but I'm the oldest, so I took on custody of my brothers at that time. It was just a really tough time. And of course, being at the hospital and talking to a few people, right away, the suggestion was to go on medication. And I grew up where, my mom had taken medication, sleeping pills, anti-anxiety, antidepressants. Unfortunately, I had siblings that were also on a lot of pills, and I just saw that they weren't working, that they didn't really do much good. And so I just knew there had to be a better way. And I think it's just like anyone, when you start kind of searching like this, I just knew what it looked like. I thought, well, I don't think that an antidepressant is going to fix this. I think that I need to look into other. I just knew something because it didn't really work for my mom, and I saw what it was doing, with my siblings. And there's a time and a place for medication, but I just intuitively just knew that I knew that I was I was really going through a tough time, and I had to get the proper support that I would need to move forward. And I didn't feel it was in the medical system. I just didn't really feel that was the route I wanted to take.
Wow, that's so inspiring. And I can resonate with that so much because I had a health issue as well. And I wondered if the medication or whatever the doctors was suggesting that I would take would actually heal the problem, not just suppress the symptom, which is like most Western medicine is about, just suppressing the symptoms. And as a result, we're just pretending that things are okay because there's no manifestation, there's no expression of that disease. But unfortunately, we're not really thinking of the root cause, and we're not really taking the time and maybe the effort to look into ourselves, because I guess this is where it all starts.
Yeah, I think even as a young kid, I just saw it as a Band-Aid. And then, of course, there was other methods on top of the medication, for coping, mixed with the medication that didn't work so well either. So I think just growing up in that environment where I think like a lot of people, just kind of trust the doctor and the doctor knows more. I just I think just even from the time I was quite young, just knew that there had to be something more. There just seemed to be something missing there.
Hmm. Yeah. So I want to talk more about your certifications and experience. You have many certifications and experience in various modalities like body talk, EFT, and Ayurveda. I think they have shaped your approach to healing and personal growth. So can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So, what I did was, I think initially, and of course, when the student is ready, the teacher always appears. So once I
Hmm.
started doing some research into more of a holistic model of healing, and I knew that I was under a significant amount of stress, that's when my body was expressing disease, which is just lack of ease. We shouldn't say that like that word, we should hyphen it. And that's when I met like one of my first teachers, and I actually started studying touch for health. So, I did all the touch for health training. And it just, when you hear something that rings truth, it was just
Hmm.
like I just got hooked right from the very beginning. And it was actually in session with one of my first teachers who was actually working on me and doing a session in touch for health and combining a couple other modalities. And I remember, with this complete stranger, like all of this guck, all of this sadness and this stress that was inside of me that I didn't even know that it was
Hmm.
like I knew I was stressed, but I couldn't even, I don't know, I couldn't even like access it to that level myself. That with this complete stranger and through just doing certain, she would just do certain muscle testing and different things would come up and she'd go into a little emotional stress release and she'd just bring up different things and get me to talk about what that meant to me. And then, I'm just sitting there on her table, just bawling my eyes out, but having like the best cry. And I had spent quite a bit of time, even at the hospital, because I had access to a counselor. My experience with the counselor wasn't so good. Like I just, even in that session of doing some of those holistic modalities and practices, I just felt like there was like, because there was so much more, my mom's passing was just like the tipping point because we grew up with a lot of trauma. There was alcoholism in the household, there was physical trauma, there had been sexual trauma. So in that session, it just felt like even beyond my mom's tragic passing, that there was just so many layers that were coming to like just coming to the surface, but that there was just such a, I don't know, like a beautiful way of it coming up, and that, it was like it was just ready. And of course, I just got hooked on it and I wanted to learn everything about these practices. I was like, wow, I didn't, need to talk to anybody really. I didn't need to take medication and I could do these practices and she would touch on certain points. And I was just like, this is amazing. So I basically from that point on just got certified in everything I think possible because of course one thing led to the next and I just started to feel better. And ironically, within a short amount of time, combining where I had been moving, which was yoga and meditation training, as well as like, my diet, because when you're under stress, you're not really taking care of yourself, you're not eating healthy. So I just started to combine a bunch of things. And I mean, the sickness, that could have ended up quite bad, could have literally taken my life, I'm a medical miracle. It's gone. It's like there's no signs of it anymore. And that's what I've even had happen with my work. When students come to work with me, they're like, they maybe get this, I call it like the death sentence. There's a date. But I think it's like when there's a will, and it does start with a goal or a desire to do better, to feel better, then anything is possible. And I think that was the thing is like as soon as I started getting that support, there was a desire to feel better. There was a desire to get out of the depression. And I think we all go through depression. I think we all go through different bouts of mental health, and we just need we need the teacher, we need the support. And it's amazing because like even Dr. Palmer, and he is a chiropractic kind of doctor and guru. He'd say the power that made the body heals the body. And there was something inside of me that just knew that, because like you said, if I would have went the route that I had seen growing up, just take an antidepressant, take a sleeping pill, I was like, that doesn't heal the body. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what ultimately I feel led to my mother's passing.
That is so inspiring, Tara. And I love what you said at the beginning about when you hear words of truth, they truly resonate with you and you take action immediately because it touches a certain place in your heart and you know it's truth. You know you have to act on it. And I think belief is the first step. Belief and desire. These are the first two components of any goal achievement project or any life desire that we want to become true and to manifest. And I know your philosophy emphasizes getting your mind right and aligning with universal laws. That is something I'm very passionate about. So, can you explain how this approach can transform one's reality?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I really believe, and of course, through a lot of study and mentorship, that the world outside is just an expression of the world inside. So we got to go inside, and we want to be we want to be our own best project. We want to study ourselves like a scientist. And when we start to understand the mind, and I moved into psychology, of course, because I came from a background of a lot of crazy. So I went into psychology and I learned so many things around the mind, of course. But when I started to study with my mentor, who is Bob Proctor, and I was personally studied by Bob, and I started learning about the mind from his approach and just how simple it could be, and just really diving into the conscious and the subconscious, it made so much sense. And the mind, like one of the first laws, Thomas Torrid would say, order is heaven's first law. When there is order within, and you understand your mind and you start to harmonize with law, it definitely is a win-win, because we're all governed by law. And I explain this, like we're governed by thousands of laws. There are some say 7 or 11 main laws, but there's thousands of laws, like the law of gravity. If I was to take this little essential oil, if I was to take this essential oil and I was to just drop it, right? Just let go of it, it's going to drop. That's the law of gravity, and it's going to do that every time. And these laws, like, they don't work my way and they don't work your way. So I think, like, most importantly, we have to get interested. We got to get interested in our minds. We know when there's no order. Our results are a reflection of what's going on in the mind. And the more order we have in the mind, the better our results are going to get. And as we create that order within, and like you said, especially when we know, where we are and where we want to go, it's amazing, because you're just harmonizing with law that governs you. And these laws are God's modus operandum. Again, law of gravity, it doesn't work your way, and it doesn't work my way. These laws work their own way. And, it was Emerson who said the law of laws was the law of cause and effect. We know if we wake up, and we wake up with intention and maybe a prayer, meditation, and we start moving towards, again, those intentions in our day. Well, this is where, right? It's the law of cause and effect. So then, how everything starts to, seems to kind of move towards you. I mean, this is literally what happens. But we know if, let's say, we wake up in a bad mood and we're focused on all the negative and nothing is working, then you stub your toe. It just seems like that. So again, it's like, what are we putting out? Because that's what's going to come back. And once we become, I think, more, it's about becoming conscious. I mean, there's no causes other than our own state of consciousness. So when we become conscious of our mind and conscious of these laws, we declare, like, responsibility, like this is sovereignty over our lives, because we now realize that we're the creators. We're creating and co-creating, but it's all coming from within us anyways. So it's pretty amazing, because I think that as humans, we overcomplicate things. And I know even when I was training in psychology, like everything just, and even in specialized kines and Chinese medicine, like everything just felt so complicated at times. And yet it's quite simple. I always think, just simplify it. And it's amazing. It truly is once you start understanding some basic concepts around the mind and universal law. It's just expect miracles.
I love it. And I think on some level, most people take themselves for granted and underestimate the power that each one of us have within our mind, within ourselves. The law of cause and effect can actually be used as a tool. The law does not work for me or for you as we wish, but we can use it with, like, if we work with the law, if we work with enough awareness of these laws around us and stay conscious about them and believe in our ability to cause things. Like when you said the examples of waking up in a bad mood or in a good mood, starting with a prayer or starting with a negative thought, oh, this is Monday, I hate Mondays. What do you expect your Monday to be if you already hate it? Like, you're already causing it. But for some reason, we underestimate our power, our strength, our maybe, yeah, power. Again, I'll use the word. I love the word power, because I think people don't think of themselves as powerful beings enough. We are such powerful beings. We are the most powerful being ever created, and we tend to forget that superpower that we have.
Yeah, there's a quote, mind is the master power that molds and makes. It's, I don't know, maybe this is why, like, as a collective consciousness on this planet, it's like once you discover these powers, you're responsible. Like it's a
Yeah.
huge responsibility. And no longer when you discover and realize that the power is within you, it's not something that's coming from outside of you, then it's really difficult to live in lack, limitation, and victim mindset or poverty mindset, because you realize if that's your experience, which we all on some level have been programmed to live that way, that it's all coming from you anyways, and that you have the opportunity to shift that. And that's exciting. I mean, I think it's much more difficult to live in that place of lack and to live in that place of victim consciousness, which we've been programmed. And ultimately, if you're living from the outside, from circumstances and, kind of what's going on in the outside, the news, the media, which we definitely shouldn't, then you get to continue being that victim. But we get to declare our own sovereignty. We get to declare dominion over our lives and over our minds, and we get to be the creator, co-creating. And it's a good life. It's much more difficult, if you ask me, long-term to stay in that place. I just call it a hell realm, because we've all been in a hell realm where we've been like, why is this happening? Why does this continue to happen? Really handing our power over to something else. I think a lot of people the last 3 years, we've seen that. We've seen that with the play on media, with the rollout of whatever you want to call it, the last 3 years.
Yeah.
It's been crazy, right? You see that where the majority of people live from the outside. And this is a place of projection and blame and deflection. And I mean, it just really sucks, because I've lived in that space far too long. It is such a great space when you declare, again, when you declare your sovereignty. You're like, oh, I have the ability to think. Doesn't matter what's going on outside of me, because the thought, everything that we're experiencing, we make it positive or negative anyways. And whatever we focus on, that's a law. Whatever you focus on, it's going to grow. So why would we focus on the bad, right? I think leaders are aware that there's problems, but they're focused on the solution. And so we're either solution seekers or we're problem finders. And again, it's all coming from inside of us anyways. And if you grew up in a household where, let's say you had a parent that was always focusing on the problem and you were never given positive praise around yourself, I think a lot of us grow up that way. It's just, again, we're just repeating these patterns generation after generation. And I don't know. I think I just call it the hell realm. I think you just get to that point where you're just, I don't know, just so sick and tired of being sick and tired. And you're just like, it's got to change. And that's a good place. I think that's a place of like, just not, yeah, being content, not being happy. Well, we're not programmed to be happy. We got to program ourselves to be happy.
I think a shift in perception is the first step to this, because when you look at things differently, when you are aware that you can actually change things, then at that time, the victim mentality is not really going to serve you anymore. It's not really the easiest way, because I think most people think of themselves as not responsible enough about their results and not powerful enough to change them. So this is why they choose the victim mentality, plus the programming that adds to the problem, because we are all programmed, or most of us at least, have been programmed to be content. Contentment or satisfaction with mediocrity, with whatever results that we're getting in life, was seen as a good thing, as a noble sentiment to have. Whereas we owe it to ourselves to grow beyond that, to want more. And for some reason, wanting more is not regarded as a good thing. It's not considered a good thing or a positive way to think. I don't know why. I don't know who decided that at the first place, but sadly, we have been programmed to do that. And a shift in perception and more awareness of our programming, and of the fact that we can actually change the programming, that's the solution, I think. So can you give us some practical steps or techniques that you'd recommend for individuals looking to align their mindset with universal laws?
Yeah, I think that place of not being content, because we're all programmed. We come to this planet programmed, right? To be in comfort and complacency. And we're seeing, yes, we might be sometimes gathering more things, but oftentimes it's just how we're coping, and we're not doing the internal work and moving towards our purpose. I really believe that everybody has a purpose. Everybody is like a snowflake. There's never going to be another Nina on this planet. And that we each have, there's like something within us that we've got to discover. And I think that that's like one of the like starting points is, if you're not happy with your life, if you're not moving towards that purpose. And I think that all of us, we get to that point where we know there just has to be so much more. You just feel it. You're like, there's more potential there. Most people are not living into their potential at all. They say the average person, which is pretty mind-boggling, is using between 5 and 10% of their potential. That's a statistic.
That's
So if
sad.
we have unlimited and we have infinite potential, by the way, which was proven, DuPont scientists in the 70s, when they were measuring the potential energy even of the human body, they discovered that it was like 10 million watts, 10 million kilowatts per pound of potential energy, which could light up an industrial city for a week. But then they realized that was, with all the new scientists and the measurements, that it was actually the potential energy is unlimited. So I think if you start to see yourself, and that's where you do have to start to study yourself. That's what I've done. We need to study ourselves like scientists and get to know, again, what is it that you desire? What is your heart's desire? Where is spirit guiding you? I think that spending time in quiet and calm is essential, because we live in times right now where there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of distraction. So I would say to just step away from that, to pull out a journal and a pen, and to start, writing, maybe even asking for guidance. I mean, for me, I think even though, I didn't come from a family that was, had any sort of religious belief in God. I mean, my mom actually declared herself as an atheist way back when. I definitely believe in God. I see all the ways that God has been there supporting me in my life, for sure. And I notice, and I think this is like most humans, when we're going through the dark night of the soul, most challenging times, we're praying. And when I look back, I was praying, and there was a divine guidance. There was like a nudging. And I think that sometimes that's where it starts for some people. It's like to really surrender and to, ask for that support. Even in my healing room for the longest time, and I don't see people on that level now, but I had ask, believe, and receive. We have to ask. If we're not happy with our lives and we want to move more towards that potential energy, which we have unlimited, when you like, it's just mind-boggling that we're only accessing 5 to 10%. That's like an average human, by the way, which makes sense when you look at like 3% of the planet, is winning, and 97% of the planet is failing. I mean, it's evident. I believe that is our moral obligation as humans on this planet, that we need to wake up, or we know science is showing us that if we don't wake up and start leading from that potential energy place, we're going to be in big trouble. We already are, according to a lot of people. So this to me is about leadership, but I think it does start with just stopping. From a Buddhist practice, we would say shamatha. You got to stop. You got to get off the hamster wheel, away from the distractions, so that vipassana can arise, and that so you can see more clearly what's going on in your life. I think that it's that place of calm and quiet, or that place of prayer and invitation and asking for guidance. Put a pen to paper, and just write. Who knows what's gonna show up on your pages, but maybe there has been this dream inside of you that wants to be unlocked. Maybe you just want to be like that older version of me, and you just want to feel better. And um, I I think from the time that I was a really young child, I remember spending some time in a hospital. I had broken my arm. It's a little town hospital. And things were really crazy at my home. It wasn't a very safe home to grow up in. There's a lot of fighting. And like I said, I grew up with alcoholism. And I remember I was like 5, but there was something inside of me. The nurses would let me go around with them and help people. And I remember being like, I just want to help people. I just want to help people feel better. And I think that this is why we go through certain lessons. Like we go through these lessons because it's like, how would we know what cold was if we don't experience hot? How would we know what love was if we didn't experience the opposite? And that's a law, right? That's a law of polarity. That's a law of opposites. So for me, since I was a young child, once I started tapping into, what is my purpose? What do I really want to do? What's going to make me feel better? It was really to be in service. It was to really help others. And I believe ultimately, Nina, I think at the core of every human being, I believe ultimately on some level, it is to serve. It's to serve in a much bigger way. But I think that we just need that time to just write. Again, it might start off with just praying and handing it over to something. It might even just be reaching out to somebody and having these kinds of conversations. And I would say give yourself permission. Our results are coming from a subconscious part of ourselves. And so we want to give ourselves permission to dream, because most of us, we shut off that ability to dream. And it could have been like a lot of emotional impact. I get that. I've been through a lot of emotional impact. It could be just part of the programming. I went through that too. It's like, I grew up poor. Maybe God doesn't love me as much. I mean, from the time I was a young girl, I had these kind of crazy, I was like in this kind of crazy thinking, but I wasn't really thinking. It was just programmed thinking. Everybody on this planet has just potential and has something to offer. So I think this is where oftentimes we've got to do it ourselves. So we got to start somewhere, but we also can't do it alone. And that's where, for me personally, it's been the mentorship. I just knew like your first mentors are your parents. And so just take a look at how successful they were. What was their health and fitness like? How were their finances? What were their relationships like? And I had a lot of emotional impact evidence that it wasn't so good. And I lost both my parents. So I was like, I better get some better mentors. I mean, they did the best they could. And I learned the most, of course, through them. That's that law of opposites. They showed me all the ways that ultimately, I could end my life quite quickly and I wouldn't access my potential energy. So this is where I just started reaching out. And I really believe that I believe in that power of prayer. I believe when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I believe that we are all divinely guided. I believe if we go inside, Spirit is always nudging us and we always know what we need to do. It's just that we also need to take action on that. And that's one thing that I got really great at doing. Plus, I knew what it looked like. So there was that emotional impact. If I don't take action, I know what this looks like. But that would be my second step is listen to those nudges and take action. But you always got to take action in the present, in the
Mhm.
now. Because if you don't take action on something you know you need to do, maybe you got a best-selling book in you like I had, well, you got to take action. You got to start writing the book and you got to do it right now. Because if you say, well, I'll start this book, a month from now, we call that like your paradigm's getting in the way. The paradigm is the program. We're all genetically and environmentally programmed. So as soon as you say, I'll do it when, your paradigm's already so strong, it's setting you up to fail because that's why you're putting it off.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have self-sabotaging patterns that they've also been raised with. So that would be my second thing is that as soon as you know you need to do something, again, it might be reach out to someone, it might be reach out to Nina, it might be, again, whatever it is, if you don't take action right in that moment on some level, you've already let your paradigm take you sideways. So that's where change happens, is it's always in the now, because the past is the past, the future's too far ahead. All we have ultimately is this moment. That's the present. And I think that once we are living more in the present and we're taking action and moving to where we want to go, then your results by law have to get better and better. It's a law. It has to.
I love it. I love it. And it puts my mind so at ease when I hear these words again and again, because the paradigm usually, or all the time, actually gives you excuses, but never reasons. It distracts you from whatever action that you want to take. And as you said, the example, I love it. I know so many people have excellent ideas of businesses or books or projects or trips they want to take or do, or whatever thing that they want to achieve. And for some reason, I'll do it next month. I'll do it when? I'll do it as soon as whatever other things happen. And you can literally see that this is not the reason, and you're not even aware of it. The person who is speaking that these words is not even aware of the fact that this is their paradigm talking, and the paradigm has one purpose, is to keep you where you are. The intention, I guess, of the brain or the paradigm behind is just to keep you safe, because what's unknown, the potential, that new version of yourself is unknown, and hence like maybe dangerous or mysterious enough for your brain to try to protect you from it. But we know better the more aware we become of our potential. I love what you said about potential. I love the statistics that never lie. 3% of people, the entire planet, are successful, but 97% are just failing. And for some reason, failing is now the norm. Since the majority of people are failing, this is how you should be around these people. Otherwise, you're the alien. You're the black sheep. But let's be black sheep, because there's, I
It's
think
kind
we
of
all.
like sheep mentality has
Yeah.
like become popular, and which
Yeah.
is that we need leaders, we need warriors, we need the
Mhm.
titans. It's the only way that we're going to we're meant to grow, and it's the only way. So if we've made it popular to be in this place of sheep mentality, we're not going to access that potential. We're actually feeding a very nasty paradigm there.
And it's such a loss, because I love saying it again and again, we owe it to ourselves to express whatever art, ideas, books, businesses, projects we have within ourselves. And we have to express that. We are here on earth to experience and to express. The universe is always for expansion and fuller expression. And I love that. So now I
I
want
want
to
to
talk.
touch on something you said, if you don't mind, because you're right. It's
Sure.
like the brain's primary, because of course my background was all like in physio and brain injury and spinal cord.
Mhm.
So I do a lot about the brain. And I love like Dr. Amen. He's like the brain expert on the planet. When the brain works right, the mind works right. And I really agree with that. But the brain's primary focus is to keep you alive. And when you look
Mhm.
at paradigms, I mean, paradigm is just a multitude of habits. And
Yeah.
so when we take a look at our habit nature, right? And so, if you look at like the way I was raised in an alcoholic, dysfunctional family. And so ultimately, this is why, you see that many, many generations, these, again, this habit nature, these paradigms are passed down. Why? Because when you break free from the tribe, right, this is where if you think about when we were on the earth and we were together, it made
Mhm.
us strong. Like there was no you wouldn't have to protect yourself, you'd be with everybody else. But
Safe.
when you break free from
Mhm.
that kind of thinking, those kind of habits, and you start dreaming, you're like, that's it, I want to start a business, I want to be in shape, I want to be, I want to leave a legacy, whatever it is. You're literally breaking free from a family or a cultural paradigm. We even see how that's playing out on the planet right now. So what does that do? That exposes you. And ultimately, we want to just fit in. I mean, this is part of our six basic human needs is we just want to fit in and we want to be loved. But as soon as you step free, right, you're at risk. So that's why many people don't do it. And ultimately, that's what we all have to do. We all have to take a look honestly at, again, the genetic and environmental programming, and we have to break free from that. That's why if you know that you have a nasty habit, whatever it is, it could be emotionally eating, it could be smoking, it could be spending money, it could be gambling, whatever it is. I mean, a paradigm is just a multitude of habits. When you recognize if you do not do something and change that, ultimately, like we call the paradigm the devil, it just continues to control you. So you have you have no control over yourself. You have no sovereignty and you continue being a victim. I don't think that, like, even for me, anything in my life, I see it as a gift. Because again, it was like it gave me the contrast, like, oh, well, I know what that looks like. It definitely doesn't look like winning. It's not
Yeah.
thriving. And so, yes, it was scary to break free. Um, but I knew that if I didn't, ultimately, what's it going to cost you? And when I asked myself those questions, and I had to be really serious, and I was definitely going down that path there for a while when I was traveling. So, I was kind of partying a little too much. And of course, genetically, that's within my family. So I was aware of some of those patterns, even within myself. Ultimately, what was it going to cost me long term? My life and my brain. I mean, it was going to cost me mental health. I knew it that spiraled into a lot of mental health things. So, and we never get rid of a bad pattern. We don't get rid of those paradigms. We don't get rid of those habits. So we have to be mindful. And that's one thing that my mom did really well because she actually kind of got involved with AA and became,
Mhm.
moved into that whole world of counseling and supporting others. And it's unfortunate, but the night that she passed, she had relapsed. And I think it was the first time she had drank. And I don't know, it was either 8 or 13 years. But it shows you don't get rid of the pattern. You got to continually set yourself up to win. We got to surround ourselves with others, right, that are going to encourage us. We got to continually, every single day, move towards what it is that we desire. Otherwise, the paradigm is really strong. The habit nature is strong. It's like my mentor, Bob, he'd always call it the devil.
Yes.
So, it's just so important when we are looking at accessing more of that potential. Well, what is getting in the way right now? What is this going to cost me if I don't step away from this? And we usually surround ourselves with other people that have similar challenges. And so we have to step away from the tribe again, which is scary because our six basic human needs are we just want to be loved. We just want to feel, important. We just want to feel accepted. And so when you step out, it is a lonely path. I really believe that leadership can be a lonely path at first. So
Yes. Yeah,
That's
definitely.
that's the that's because we get stuck in comfort and complacency. That's where we got to get uncomfortable.
Mm.
We got to do the work. Life was never meant to be easy. Life is ultimately, it's hard sometimes, but when you do the work works. And that's the great thing. Like if you ask me, it's harder to stay stuck than it is long
Mm.
term to, think outside of the box, get outside of the box, and ultimately lead in your life.
You reminded me of something else Bob Proctor said, that is, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I live by that. Every time I'm uncomfortable doing something or learning a new skill or experiencing a new experience, I like put it into my awareness that this is the discomfort I need to grow. That shift in perception really gives me so much ease into doing that thing that I'm doing for the first time, maybe into starting that project, into whatever it is that I'm doing, that it's making me feel uncomfortable because it's somehow at some level outside my comfort zone. The fact that I remind myself that this is discomfort needed to grow and to achieve more and to fulfill my potential. We are creatures of habit, as you said, and I love that. The power of habits is absolutely amazing, and we can do so much if we understand that everything is can be habitual, and the bad habits or the good habits can be changed, implemented, replaced by others. We can just literally learn to play around and to gain control over our habits. So can you share, Tara, some of your habits, some of maybe your daily routine? What are the non-negotiables that you need to do every day?
Yeah, and I call them those are my non-negotiables. That's what I say. These are my non-negotiables. So one of my habits is I get up really early. So I start my day early. One of my favorite sayings is when your morning, when your day. So one habit is I like to stay up too late though. So I have shifted that over the years. When I was studying with Robin Sharma, that was a long time ago now, but he has what's called the 5 a.m. club. So I started implementing a 5 a.m. club, like, I don't know, I think it was 15 years ago. And of course, there's a great book out there on that 5 a.m. club. So I'm just sharing this. If you're going to practice getting up early, you got to make sure you get to sleep early. I think people need to get better sleep. So that's really important to me. And I have, like I just say, habits of a millionaire or a billionaire, because I have really great habits. And even just sharing around habits, you're right, Nina, like in order to move towards a healthier habit, you got to take, like, it's about replacing. You got to replace bad habits with healthier ones, right? And so for me, I study myself every day like a scientist. That's one thing. And all the years of, personally being mentored by Bob, he studied himself every day. I was with Tony Robbins for years. You just see how these, like, by the way, these are guys that had less than a grade 9 education. Like, I knew there was something missing, and even in the education system, like these guys just knew how to think. And I made a decision that if Bob studied, every day, that I would study every day too. So that is a non-negotiable habit. I study every day. And it really gets the order that, remember, I was talking about aligning the mind and order. Well, order is heaven's first law. So I'm studying and learning about things that continue to move me towards those big goals and those dreams. Another habit that I have is writing out my goal. I write out my goal and I have it on a card. I carry my card everywhere I go. I've got them everywhere strategically, like in my kitchen, because I spend a lot of time cooking, especially studying Ayurveda for all those years. I love to make recipes, alchemy with food, but I have them, I have goal cards in my vehicle. I have them in my purse. Everywhere I go, I have these goal cards because this is my focus. Now, whatever you focus on, it's got to grow, right? So, unfortunately, I grew up in a household where there was a lot of focus on the negativity, right? There was the focus on, not being enough money. There was focus on just all the problems. So that's one of my non-negotiables is I am constantly focusing on, where am I going? Being that solution seeker, being a love finder. Gratitude is another focus. And another habit of mine. I start my day. First thing I do is I touch the ground, I touch my heart, and I'm like, I'm alive. So it's like
Love it.
gratitude. I woke up out of corpse pose. Prayer, prayer and meditation are definitely my saving grace. And again, it just creates more order in the mind. And I have so many habits. Moving my body, that's a habit. I mean, that's
Yeah.
something beautiful state. I learned that through Tony Robbins. It's like, you know, get out of your head, get into your heart, move your body. Plus, we know if you do that first thing in the morning, you're going to reset your metabolism. You're going to, like, again, when you follow people that are leading, they always have really great habits. And so that's my saying, win your morning, win your day. It's like, it's a win-win. And I don't know, I have so many great habits, but this would be some of my morning habits.
I love it. I love it. Let me summarize this. So get enough sleep, wake up early, meditate, be grateful, remind yourself of your goal, maybe have a goal card everywhere around the house, around your vehicle, always in front of you, and move your body. That's you're doing things for your soul, things for your heart, things for your body, things for your mind, and study yourself. I love that. Yeah, I think not
And
many
I think,
people.
just to add on to that, I think that we are spending too much time now inside, electricians call our homes electricity boxes.
Uh-huh.
Because we have all these Wi-Fi's and
Yes.
the EMFs. I think it's so, that's like a non-negotiable of mine is before 9 a.m. is to get sun in my eyes, to do movement outside. I actually spend a lot of time in my bare feet so that I can ground myself back to the earth. So that, like, I call myself a biohacker. Nina, I've been a biohacker forever. I'm actually doing a bunch of longevity stuff. I celebrated my 50th birthday this year. So I'm always like biohacking. I'm always looking for ways just to, again, connect more to that, to my healthiest, best self. And that's what I would just encourage everybody. I think we all know, it's like if you've been sitting on the couch too much, you just know, you need to get outside. You need to do something, you know?
Absolutely. And these things are not that difficult or that complicated to do, are they? They're just simple things. Like
No, and
step
they're
outside to
free.
the sun.
It's all free. You don't have to
Yeah.
pay money for those things, right?
And it's not that much of a time to spend as well. So just a few minutes every morning, and you're all set for the whole day, for success, for productivity, for energy, for health, for fitness. You get your body moved. You get your eyes in the sun. That really like resets your metabolism, resets your circadian rhythm, and it's all to the good. And it's really not that much of an effort, either time, either effort, and it's free. I love it. Thank you so much for these.
I think that's
Um,
also the cure to a lot of mental health things that we're seeing now. I think that we just need to connect um, to the more natural part of ourselves, and we're living now, which is interesting, in a lot of
yes.
artificial time, like everything is artificial. And so just think of if you didn't have lights in your home. I mean, we're so grateful we have lights, right? So, but if you didn't have lights, as soon as it gets dark, what would you do if you were operating on natural time? You would go to bed,
Yes.
right? As soon as the sun comes up, you would get up. So we need to sync ourselves. I've got a lot of training in Chinese medicine and, five element theory and all this. Like we've got to just allow our body to resync with the natural as much as we can, because I think this is what also is fueling a lot of the challenges, the diseases that we're seeing on this planet too. And I mean, we're all, on some level tied to electricity, right? And these phones, and they're great and we're grateful, but can we step away from them?
Yeah.
Can we shut them off? Can we get closer to the earth? Can we go, maybe get our feet in the sand or go for a hike? I think that that's so essential at this time for our mental health and well-being.
Definitely, definitely. Those are such good reminders. Thank you so much, Tara. I really enjoyed our talk today. So, to end this amazing episode, I really loved it. Can you, or do you have any final words to share with our listeners today?
Well, again, just as I connect to spirit, I think that the reminder is there's a lot of people right now going through tough times. And I think that, and if that's you, if you're going through a tough time, that there really truly is no better time to just be a good human. You know, I think that our creator is asking us to evolve our consciousness. I think we're being asked to step it up. Again, we've got to stop feeding this sheep mentality. We're being asked to do the work. I mean, life was not meant to be easy. We've got to do the work. You know, there's a saying that it was something Bob would always say, that God gives, like, every bird, enough food to eat. He just doesn't put it in their nest. Like, we have to do the work. We have to develop ourselves. And I think that right now we are going through a shift in consciousness. And if we do not do our work and shift that consciousness, we're going to be in big trouble. But I think that there's no better time. If you're going through a tough time, or someone going through a tough time, just be a good human. I think everybody has I call them superpowers. Everybody has gifts. Like, my gift's always been my ability to create community and to connect, to be, a good listener when people are going through tough times, and to be someone who goes out and just does good things for people. I think that when you do that and you get outside of your own stuff, you ultimately are feeding and nourishing yourself as well. And, there's, like, we can be kinder. We can share our superpowers with others. Again, we're all unique. We're not in competition with anybody. We actually want to get more on the creative plane. And when we're going through a tough time, understand the laws. When things are really bad, there's really good coming. That's the law of opposites. That's the polarity, right? So I think that that's where I would just encourage everybody is, we need to be better humans. We need to be good stewards of this earth. Our creator is asking us to evolve our consciousness. It's not going to be easy, but if we step forward together with others and we continue to do our work, well, we're going to be divinely guided and supported. So yeah, I think that's what I would leave everybody with, is there's no better time to go inside your own heart and your own soul and just be a good human and help others.
Beautiful. I love it, Tara. Such beautiful words to end up this amazing episode. Thank you so much for joining me today, Tara Pilling. This was the Success Catalyst, and we'll see you again in the next episode.